Assalamu alaikum students and a very good morning to all of you. This is your teacher Miss Azmana and I am here with your week 1 home task. Now students, it is very important to know that simile and metaphors are actually the figurative. They are part of our figurative language. A figurative language is a technique that is used by the poets and the authors and the playwrights so that they are able to make their writing attractive and alluring for the reader. It's easy to make it's easy to make the reader imagine the description, we can say the descriptive idea of the concept that the author or the poet is trying to give. So let's move ahead and see what is the difference between the simile and metaphor and how they are used in the world of writing and literature. A very simple idea. Similes. A simile is a comparison made between two things that are not alike in most ways but are alike in one important. In a simile, the words like or as are used to signal that a comparison is being made between. Speakers and writers use similes to emphasize a certain characteristic. Similes, we can say, the comparison made in a simile is often unusual. The listener or reader can form a mental image of the comparison. As I told you, a mental description is formed in the minds of the reader, and it's easier this way to understand or comprehend the idea which the poet or the author is trying to give. Increases understanding of what the speaker or writer is trying to communicate. For example, last night Bob slept like a log. Now, if you see this example over here, Bob and log. Apparently, they do not have anything alike. They don't look alike. A log is a log, Bob is a living thing, and log is a non-living thing. At the same time, some quality is common between both Bob and log, and that is the quality of being still or look like sleeping. So the word like is used to compare the quality of sleeping or being still between Bob and the log. Working on her project, Mary was as busy as a beaver. Now, there is no comparison apparently between Mary and a beaver. Mary is a human being and beaver is an animal. But there is something common, a quality between Mary and beaver, which can be compared, like being busy. Beaver is always busy in making ways uh, in the water with the logs. Similarly, Mary is always busy in her project. So we can say that being busy is one of those qualities which is common between Mary and the beaver. Now let's talk about some commonly used similes with like. Fits like a glove, runs like a deer, chatters like a monkey, moves like a snail, sits there like a bump on a log, eats like a pig, swims like a fish, stood out like a sore thumb, fought like cats and dogs, eyes like a hawk, takes it like a man, sings like a bird. Now let's talk about some commonly used similes with as. As clear as mud, as strong as an ox. Now let me tell you students, as clear as mud it's a sarcastic statement. As nutty as a fruit cake, as pretty as a picture, as good as gold, as quiet as a mouse, as clear as a bell, as bright as day, as light as a feather, as dry as a bone, as slow as molasses, and as deep as an ocean. Continuing with the topic of simile, yes, you will often encounter similes when listening to a speaker or reading something. Follow the steps listed below to build your understanding of similes. Listen or look for the words like or as clues to a possible simile. Identify the two things being compared. Think about the two things being compared. Form a mental image of the comparison. Identify what the speaker or writer is trying to communicate. Recognizing similes will help you better understand what you hear or read. Using similes when you speak or write will improve your communication. Now students, let's talk about metaphors. A metaphor is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase that denotes a certain object or idea is applied to another word or phrase to imply some similarity between them. Now let me explain you metaphors with an example. The teenage boy's stomach was a bottomless pit. Now, a bottomless pit can never be filled. In this example, bottomless pit is a metaphor because it is being applied to the teenage boy's stomach to imply that his appetite could never be satisfied. That is, his stomach could never be filled. I hope you will also notice in this example that we are not using the word like or as. Instead, we are simply converting that object into another object with which we are comparing it. Now, stomach is a bottomless pit. I did not say stomach like a bottomless pit. So, this is clear that there is no like or as being used in this example of metaphors. Now, let me explain you more characteristics of metaphors. Speakers and writers use metaphors for several reasons. Now, let me tell you those reasons. Metaphors can help readers or listeners to better understand something about the object or idea to which the metaphor is being applied. Metaphors can make speaking and writing more lively and interesting. Metaphors can communicate a great deal of meaning with just a word or a phrase. Metaphors, because they imply rather than directly state relationships, can get listeners and readers to think about what they are hearing or reading. Now, another way of using metaphors could be like this. The teacher got to the bottom of the problem. Now, this implies that the teacher got to the source of the problem. Another way of understanding metaphors could be with this example. My dad was boiling mad. Now, this implies that my dad was very, very angry. The homework was a breeze. Now, this implies that homework was very easy to do. They showered the birthday girl with gifts. This implies that they gave the girl many gifts. So you see, students, there are other ways of using metaphors as well. Her dog, Jake, was the sunshine of her life. Now, this implies that Jake was the brightest or the best part of her life. So, she called her dog Jake the sunshine, right? So, we see that in metaphors, we simply compare two things by turning them into each other or not using like and as, like similes. Now, students, remember there is a strategy for using metaphors. Identify the object or idea that is the subject of what you are writing or saying. For example, suppose you're trying to describe a sunset. Identify what it is that you want to communicate about, an object or idea. You want to bring out how beautiful the sunset is. Identify another object or idea that strongly implies what you want to communicate. You decide that idea of painted would be a good way to communicate the beauty of the sunset. Construct a sentence in which you link the idea of painted with sunset. For example, you could write or say, the sunset painted the sky with vibrant colors. Using metaphors when you write and speak will allow you to communicate more effectively and in a more interesting way. Let me tell you, students, now your speech and your writings are going to be less boring, or I would say not boring at all, since you know how to use your similes and metaphors, and you also know how to understand and comprehend them. And thank you very much, students, for understanding and showing your patience with the video, I would say. So simile and metaphors are quite clear to you now. I hope that you're going to enjoy your reading and your literature and understanding it in a better way than before. Take care of yourself and never forget these two things because they're extremely important. Bye-bye.